Penguin Random House Audio presents Wild Cards 4 Aces Abroad. Edited by George R. Martin and written by Stephen Lay, John Joseph Miller, Leanne C. Harper, Kevin Andrew Murphy, Gail Gerstner Miller, Walton Simons, Edward Bryant, Louis Shiner, Carrie Vaughn, Victor W. Milan, Melinda M. Snodgrass, Michael Cassutt, and George R. Martin. Performed by Selma Blair, Clancy Brown, Adrian Paul, Armin Shimerman, Kathleen Turner, and a full cast. Editor's note. Wild Cards is a work of fiction set in a completely imaginary world whose history parallels our own. Names, characters, places, and incidents depicted in Wild Cards are fictitious or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or real persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. The works contained in this anthology are works of fiction. Any writings referred to within these works are themselves fictional, and there is no intent to depict actual writers or to imply that any such persons have ever actually written or published the fictional essays, articles, or other works referred to in the works of fiction comprising this anthology.
The Tint of Hatred by Stephen Lay. Read for you by Clancy Brown, Emily Rankin, and Yasmeen Barghouty.
Prologue. Thursday, November 27th, 1986, Washington, D.C. The Sony threw flickering light over Sarah's Thanksgiving feast, a Swanson turkey dinner steaming in foil on the coffee table. On the television screen, a mob of misshapen jokers marched through a sweltering New York summer afternoon, their mouths moving in silent screams and curses. The grainy scene had the jerky look of an old newsreel, and suddenly the picture swung about to show a handsome man in his mid-30s, his sleeves rolled up, his suit coat slung over a shoulder and his tie loose on his neck. Senator Gregg Hartmann, as he had been in 1976. Hartmann strode through the police lines blockading the jokers, shrugging away the security men who tried to hold him, shouting at the police himself. Alone, he stood between the authorities and the oncoming crowd of jokers, motioning them back. Then the camera panned toward a disturbance within the ranks of jokers. The images were jumbled and out of focus. At the center was the ace prostitute known as Succubus, her body seemingly made of quicksilver flesh, her appearance constantly shifting. The wild card had cursed her with sexual empathy. Succubus could take on whatever shape and form most pleased her clients, but that ability was now out of control. Around her, people responded to her power, grasping out for her with a strange lust on their faces. Her mouth was open in an imploring scream as the pursuing crowd, police and jokers both, bore her down. Her arms were stretched out in supplication, and as the camera panned back, there was Hartmann again, his jaw open in surprise as he gaped at Succubus. Her arms were reaching for him. Her plea was for him. Then she was gone under the mob. For several seconds she was buried, lost. But then the crowd drew back in horror. The camera followed Hartmann closer. He shoved through those around Succubus, angrily pushed them away. Sarah reached for the VCR's remote switch. She touched the pause button, freezing the scene, a moment of time that had shaped her life. She could feel the hot tears streaking her face. Succubus lay twisted in a pool of blood, her body mangled, her face turned upward as Hartmann stared at her, mirroring Sarah's horror. Sarah knew the face that Succubus, whoever she might have really been, had found just before death. Those young features had haunted Sarah since childhood. Succubus had taken on Andrea Whitman's face. Sarah's older sister's face. Andrea, who, at 13, had been brutally murdered in 1950. Sarah knew who had kept that pubescent image of Andrea locked away in his mind for so many years. She knew who had placed Andrea's features on the infinitely malleable body of Succubus. She could imagine that face on Succubus as he lay with her, and that thought hurt Sarah most of all. "You bastard!" Sarah whispered to Senator Hartmann, her voice choking. "You goddamn bastard! You killed my sister, and you couldn't even let her stay dead."
From the Journal of Xavier Desmond, by George R. Martin. Read for you by Armin Shimerman. November 30th, Jokertown. My name is Xavier Desmond, and I am a joker. Jokers are always strangers, even on the street where they were born, and this one is about to visit a number of strange lands. In the next 5 months, I will see velds and mountains, Rio and Cairo, the Khyber Pass and the Straits of Gibraltar, the Outback and the Champs-Élysées, all very far from home for a man who has often been called the mayor of Jokertown. Jokertown, of course, has no mayor. It is a neighborhood, a ghetto neighborhood at that, and not a city. Jokertown is more than a place, though. It's a condition, a state of mind. Perhaps, in that sense, my title is not undeserved. I have been a joker since the beginning. 40 years ago, when Jet Boy died in the skies over Manhattan and loosed the wild card upon the world, I was 29 years of age, an investment banker with a lovely wife, a 2-year-old daughter, and a bright future ahead of me. A month later, when I was finally released from the hospital, I was a monstrosity with a pink elephantine trunk growing from the center of my face where my nose had been. There are 7 perfectly functional fingers at the end of my trunk, and, over the years, I have become quite adept with this third hand. Were I suddenly restored to so-called normal humanity, I believe it would be as traumatic as if one of my limbs were amputated. With my trunk, I am ironically somewhat more than human, and infinitely less. My lovely wife left me within 2 weeks of my release from the hospital, at approximately the same time that Chase Manhattan informed me that my services would no longer be required. I moved to Jokertown 9 months later, following my eviction from my Riverside Drive apartment for health reasons. I last saw my daughter in 1948. She was married in June of 1964, divorced in 1969, remarried in June of 1972. She has a fondness for June weddings, it seems. I was invited to neither of them. The private detective I hired informs me that she and her husband now live in Salem, Oregon, and that I have 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl, one from each marriage. I sincerely doubt that either knows that their grandfather is the mayor of Jokertown. I am the founder and president emeritus of the Jokers Anti-Defamation League, or JADL, the oldest and largest organization dedicated to the preservation of civil rights for the victims of the wild card virus. The JADL has had its failures, but overall, it has accomplished great good. I am also a moderately successful businessman. I own one of New York's most storied and elegant nightclubs, the Funhouse, where jokers and gnats and aces have enjoyed all the top joker cabaret acts for more than 2 decades. The Funhouse has been losing money steadily for the last 5 years, but no one knows that except me and my accountant. I keep it open because it is, after all, the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?